What if I told you that 42 young men were brutally killed by 2 bears, just for mocking a bald man? And what if this wasn't an urban legend, but a real event recorded in the Bible, a story theologians have been trying to explain for over 2,000 years? Today, we're going to unravel one of the most controversial episodes in Scripture. And I guarantee, in the next 8 minutes, you'll never see this passage the same way again. I'm Familia Pays, and you're on the channel where we explore the Bible's most fascinating narratives with historical depth. If you really want to understand this disturbing story, hit that like button now. And if you're new here, turn on notifications. Comment now. Did you already know this story? What was your first reaction? To understand this tragedy, we need to go back to 850 BC, to a city called Bethel, which means House of God. But here's the first shock. The Bethel of Elisha's day was no longer the house of God. It was the exact opposite. Remember Jacob, the young man who dreamed of angels climbing a ladder to heaven? That was in Bethel. Jacob said, "This place is the very house of God." But in 930 BC, something terrible happened. When Israel split, Jeroboam I built 2 golden calves, one in Dan and one in Bethel, and said, "Here are your gods, O Israel." Imagine the blasphemy. In the place where God revealed himself to Jacob, there was now a golden idol. For 80 years, Bethel was a center of apostasy. First insight: this wasn't an isolated confrontation, but the climax of decades of spiritual rebellion. But who was this bald man? Elisha was the son of a prosperous farmer. When Elijah found him, he was plowing with 12 teams of oxen. Imagine, a 25-year-old young man, sweating from work, suddenly receives the prophetic mantle of Israel's greatest prophet. But notice his response. Elisha asked to say goodbye to his parents first. And what he did reveals his character. He sacrificed his oxen, burned his plowing tools, and threw a farewell feast. Between his calling and the bear incident, 10 years passed, learning the weight of prophetic ministry. Elisha saw how God dealt with rebels. Ahab killed as prophesied, Jezebel devoured by dogs. Elisha learned that being a prophet also meant being an instrument of divine judgment. Second insight: when he walked to Bethel, it wasn't tourism, it was a divine mission in one of Israel's most corrupt cities. And then we come to the moment that changed everything. Elisha is walking from Jericho to Bethel under the scorching sun. Pay close attention to the biblical details. The text says that some small boys came out of the city. They left Bethel specifically to meet him. It wasn't random. It was premeditated. Small boys in Hebrew is eniarim ketnim, not little children, but young men between 12 and 25 years old. And note this, 42 were attacked by the bears. The original group was much larger, likely 60, 70, maybe 80 young men. A crowd coming out specifically to confront the prophet. And what they shouted reveals so much more. "Go up, bald head! Go up, bald head!" Remember, Elijah had ascended to heaven days earlier. It was a sarcastic challenge. If you're a prophet like Elijah, go up to heaven too. Prove your power. It was theological provocation disguised as an insult. It was a denial of prophetic authority. It was collective spiritual rebellion. Devastating context. This happened after Elisha purified the waters of Jericho. He had shown undeniable prophetic power. What was the young men's reaction? Instead of reverence, defiance. Instead of respect, mockery. Third insight: Elisha turned and saw them. A deliberate prophetic decision, not an impulsive reaction. Elisha cursed them in the name of the Lord. 2 bears came out of the forest and mauled 42 young men. The theological questions. Did God send the bears? In the Deuteronomistic worldview, insulting a prophet was equivalent to insulting God. The prophet was the mouth of God on earth. Why such severity? The number 42 has symbolic meaning. It represents an entire generation raised in apostasy. Elisha saw in those young men the future of Israel if it continued in rebellion. A generation that grew up replacing the true God with idols. Fourth insight: this wasn't arbitrary cruelty, but a demonstration of the seriousness of prophetic authority and a warning about national apostasy. This passage isn't about a cruel God who kills young men for jokes. It's about the confrontation between divine truth and institutionalized apostasy. It's about a generation that grew up without reverence for the sacred. It's about the moment when divine patience reaches its limit. The big question: how do we reconcile this with Jesus' teaching to bless those who curse us? The answer: progressive revelation. Old Testament, national theocracy. New Testament, era of individual grace. Final message: just as those young men grew up despising the sacred, how many generations today grow up without divine reverence? Elisha's story is a mirror for our time. If this analysis opened your mind to a new understanding, hit that like button now. In the comments, has your perspective changed? Do you see why historical context is crucial? Want more analyses like this? Subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week, why did God order the extermination of the Canaanites? An analysis that will shock with its historical depth. Share this with someone who's questioned this passage. Show that faith and reason can walk together. Remember, understanding Scripture in context doesn't diminish faith, it strengthens it. Until next time, and may God bless you.